Hi, I'm Daniel Foley from Foley Health and Fitness. And in this video, I want to go over with the athletes out there some ways that you can improve your speed. How can you improve your speed and your performance so that you can perform better in whatever your sport may be? So in the last video I sent out to the athletes, I talked about my journey, how I had the skill to play Division I college baseball, but I didn't have the body. So I went through a process where I lost 50 pounds, and the big three things that I did were to stretch regularly, to track what I was eating, and to start to train. Now along the way, I got a Division I scholarship. I got to basically pick where I wanted to go to school, and got a good scholarship, and got to play Division I baseball at a high level. But along the way, I made some mistakes too. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was I didn't quite understand how to train properly to really increase my performance to get it to the next level to be able to play professionally. The biggest limiting factor for me was just speed and velocity of being able to throw harder. And looking back now, I wish that I would have known some of these things. So after I played, I went on to coach, and as I was coaching, I got into doing personal training as well, and I started to learn more about our body and how to produce speed. And one of the years when I was coaching, we actually had a pitching staff that had nobody on our team that when they got there they could throw probably over 85 miles an hour. And by the end of the season, we had several guys throwing 90, 92, 93 miles an hour. So we saw huge increases almost in every guy in velocity. And we see the same thing, applying the same principles to speed for football, for track, for soccer, whatever it would be. And I want to go over those principles with you here in this video. So when we're talking about speed, like I said, speed is crucial for almost every sport. Wrestling, golf, baseball, soccer, football, basketball, almost every sport that you can think of has some kind of a speed component. If we can improve speed, you're going to improve your performance and how well you play. So let's talk about speed. The first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at mobility and flexibility. So this is one of the biggest things, in the last video we talked about, one of the biggest things you can do to improve your speed is to actually get more flexible and to get more mobile. So you got to think about it this way. So for example, if you're playing baseball or golf and you're taking a backswing back, the further you can get back into the backswing, the more potential you have to swing it back through and swing it with more velocity and more club head speed. So the better positions you can get into, the more you can create speed. So the thing to think about this with mobility and flexibility is that your muscles just do one thing. They just open and close. Well, if I can only open them this far, I'm missing out on all this potential speed that I can create, because the longer I have to make a run at it, the more momentum I can build up and I can create more speed. So the more you can get your muscles open and flexible, now you don't have to be over the top flexible, but you need to be able to get into good positions. A while back I had a guy that I used to coach that ended up getting drafted pretty high. In baseball, he was a pitcher, and one of the things was he was extremely flexible. When he would pitch, he could get his arm, real far back there, and he was throwing consistently in the, mid-90s pretty regularly. So this flexibility is a huge part of speed. You got to be able to get into the positions to be able to produce more speed. So for a lot of people, that's the missing link to your speed, is just getting more flexible. Now you can do that, just start stretching regularly. Start working on your movement, start working on your stretching on a regular basis. A lot of these other steps, if you actually add a lot of these other steps to your fitness without having the flexibility to it, you're actually potentially increasing your risk of injuries, because now you are adding more strength and more power on top of something that is not very flexible, and you might potentially injure yourself. So your flexibility and your strength and power need to make sure that they stay balanced together. So the next thing is body weight training. So as a general rule of thumb, the better you get at body weight training, it's going to improve your speed. Okay, so as an example, we know that if you improve the amount of pull-ups that you can do, so you improve your max pull-ups, you're typically going to jump higher, you're going to see a higher vertical jump, box jump, you're going to run faster. So there's direct correlations to how well you can move your body weight, just in body weight exercises, and your actual speed. So if you can get better at your body weight exercises, it's going to help a lot with that. It's also the body weight exercises are a great way for beginners to get started if you've never trained much before. So you can start doing things like squats, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, just basic stuff, and work on them regularly and gradually up your reps over time as you go. But for a lot of the high school kids that we see, and middle school especially, but definitely high school kids, if you just got better at moving your own body weight, so working on squats, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, things like that, and you got more flexible, typically you're going to get faster just doing those things. And those are things that you don't need any equipment for, and you can do those at home just in your bedroom, every night before you go to bed. You can do them, whatever time of day, but you can do them without any equipment, and it's very easy to get started. And just doing that every day, you'll see a big difference in your performance. So the next one I want to talk about is relative strength. So relative strength is the amount of weight you can lift as compared to your body weight. So most people are familiar with the main lifts like a bench press or back squat, front squat, whatever would be. What you really want to go for there when it comes to speed is you want to work on increasing what is called your relative strength. So the amount of weight that you can lift as compared to your body weight. So for example, if you weigh 150 pounds and you can bench press 150, you're bench pressing your body weight. Okay, so if you take your bench press up to 200 pounds and you still weigh 150, odds are you're probably going to be more powerful and you're probably going to be faster. And you're going to improve your relative strength. So gains in relative strength, they lead to being able to produce speed, especially in the starts. So you think of like a track runner or a football player running a 40-yard dash. In your very beginning of your runs, your starts, when you're starting with no momentum, it takes a lot of strength to overcome the inertia to get started. So if you don't have any momentum going, it takes a lot of strength just to get you going. So your relative strength is going to improve your ability to get out of the box faster, to get started faster. So really good for football, baseball, soccer if you need a short burst, wrestling if you need a short burst and relative strength. So relative strength is a big one. So relative strength, just training the main lifts consistently. You don't have to necessarily go to failure on them all the time, but training the main lifts like your squats, bench press, shoulder presses, deadlifts, cleans, things like that, training them consistently over time and just gradually bumping up your weight as you can, you're going to notice improvements in strength. The biggest key with that, again, is the consistency and the frequency of it. It doesn't have to be crazy heavy all the time, it just has to be consistent over time and you'll get stronger. And then the last one on here is acceleration. So with our pitchers, we used to do this with throwing, but it was working on increasing our arm speed and throwing faster. So this could be, we talked about starting speed with relative strength. This is working on your top speed. So once you have momentum going, working on turning it over faster. This could be with throwing, could be with hitting, could be running, whatever it may be, but working on your top speed. This can be as simple as acceleration sprints where you kind of have a rolling or jogging start and then you work on your acceleration speed and your top speed in the middle of a sprint there. So those are simple things that you can do to kind of work on your speed. One other thing I wanted to touch on was just overall conditioning for sports. So conditioning for sports, you need to remember that every sport is like a language. So just because you can speak Spanish doesn't mean you can speak German or you can speak English. Okay, so every sport is like its own language and you need to condition for every sport in a different way. So the best way I think to condition for your sport is actually to play your sport or to practice your sport regularly. I've got several good friends of mine that I grew up with that went on to play in the major leagues in baseball, and all of them practice their sport every day. So if you want to be good at something, if you want to get to that next level, you need to up your practice time. You need to be practicing every day, along with working on your body too. But conditioning for your sport is something that you need to do. So we see this a lot. Just because you're in shape for football doesn't mean you're in shape for wrestling. Just because you're in shape for baseball doesn't mean you're in shape for soccer. So every sport has its different conditioning requirements. And I learned this when I was in college. That sophomore year that I had, where I had a really good year in junior college, one of the things I started to do every day, I started throwing a football for probably several hundred throws every day. And my pitching coach was starting to give me a little bit of a hard time because he was saying that I was going to wear myself out because I was out there throwing a football for 100 throws before I would even go pitch in the game that very day, just an hour later. But what happened was my arm got so conditioned that I could throw a football for 100 or 200 throws, and then I could go into the game and throw a whole game and still not be tired. So we see this a lot of times. We used to see it with pitchers. They would be great at running. They can run 3 miles, 5 miles, and they can run fast times with their miles. They're in great cardiovascular shape and they're in great running shape, but then they go out to pitch and it's a different motion, using different muscles, and they get tired very quickly. So you need to be conditioned for your sport, is what I want you to take away from that. And one other thing I want you to take away is training frequency. So all these things that we're talking about, these are things that can be done all year round. They don't have to be done just in the off season. They can be done all year round. So you can stretch and do body weight exercises in your bedroom every night, no problem. Just making it's really where you get into issues with training is that you do training that you're not used to. So if you start, like I said, for me, throwing a football 100 times and then going out and throwing after that was not a big deal because I was used to it. I had been conditioned for it. So if you're already used to doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, pull-ups, and stretching every night, and you just continue to do it in the season, you're not going to see any negative effects from it. You're actually going to get better as you go through the season. So typically most athletes, as they go through their season, they actually lose strength and they get weaker as they go through the season, and that doesn't have to be the case. Same thing with strength. You can still train strength all through the season. Sets of 3 to 5 reps are not that tiring if you don't go at a max 100%. A lot of people are surprised to learn that you can actually get stronger lifting just medium weights consistently and showing up almost every day and doing them. So you don't have to, train, once a week and go crazy with it. You can train more regularly, but not quite as intense, and that way you can still maintain your practice schedule and your game schedules, and you won't get sore from it either. Okay. So I like to think about it this way. If you wanted to get good at a sport, you need to practice it every day. Anything that you want to get good at, you need to practice every day. These are things that you can be doing most every day. Acceleration, something simple we used to have our guys do when I was coaching in baseball. We would have our guys run somewhere between 1 to 3 kind of max sprints every day. Maybe 30, 40-yard sprints. Depending on your sport, you could change the distance of that. And it wasn't trying to make them tired, it was trying to work on their acceleration and their speed. So a lot of times people get caught up in the conditioning aspect when really we need to be working on speed as well. So we would run just 1 to 3, let's say 30 to 40-yard sprints, and just working on our speed, and we would do that several times a week, sometimes even every day. And it was amazing to see how much faster the guys would get as they would go through the season just by doing a little bit every day. So that what I want you to take away is you don't have to do a lot in any one day. It's the consistency of it built up over time, and you can continue to do this even in season. So some of the big, like I said, misconceptions that are out there is that you have to have a lot of fancy equipment, that you have to have, a lot of time, that you can't do it in season. Those are all things that you can do. You can continue to train in season. So I want you to be on the lookout. We're going to be sending you another video sometime soon. In this video, I'm going to have a guest with me, and he's going to be helping me talk about things that you can do, his journey to gain weight and to get into a D1 school. So he kind of took the opposite path as me, and he's going to kind of share some of the things that we talked about before, but from a different perspective of gaining weight and trying to get bigger to play a college sport. So be on the lookout for that as we go.